The curse of my own habits. I always thought life was just a string of unlucky coincidences. No matter how hard I tried, I seemed to end up in the same place, stuck in dead-end jobs, toxic relationships, and a cycle of constant disappointment. Friends would say, maybe it's just bad luck, or you just need to try harder. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. Something was off. Something that didn't make sense. It all started on a rainy evening when I decided to take a shortcut home through the old part of town. The streets were deserted, the neon lights reflecting off the puddles in a distorted rainbow, and the air smelled of damp concrete and old smoke. I was lost in thought about yet another failure at work, another project that collapsed, another argument with someone I cared about. And that's when I saw her. She was standing under a flickering street lamp, her back to me, wearing a long, dark coat that seemed to swallow the light. I didn't even know why I approached her. Something in her presence demanded attention, like a quiet alarm that couldn't be ignored. When she turned to look at me, her eyes were piercing, dark, almost unreal. I froze. "You keep doing the same things," she said. Her voice was low, smooth, almost hypnotic. "And you'll stay the same forever if you don't change." I laughed nervously, trying to brush it off. Thanks, I guess." But something about the way she said it made my stomach tighten. It wasn't a casual remark, it was a warning. "I can help you," she continued, taking a step closer. "But first you have to see the truth." Before I could respond, she reached into her coat and pulled out a small black box. Inside, there was a collection of strange objects, charms, tiny bones, and what looked like pieces of parchment with symbols I didn't recognize. I didn't know why, but I felt drawn to it. There was a magnetic pull, like something deep in my mind recognized what I'd been avoiding for years. "Everything you've been blaming on luck, on fate, on other people," she said, her eyes locking with mine. "It's your habits. Every complaint, every failure, every heartbreak, they're the result of your choices, repeated over and over. You're under a curse, yes, but not one I cast. You cast it yourself. And if you don't stop, it will never end." I wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, but I couldn't. For the first time, I began to see the pattern. How I stayed in relationships that hurt me, clung to jobs that drained me, avoided opportunities that scared me, all because I was comfortable in my misery. I had built a cage around myself with my own hands and then blamed the world for locking the door. She handed me a piece of parchment and I noticed strange words written in an ancient script. "This is a mirror," she said. "It shows what you refuse to see, your own repetition. Look carefully, see the truth, or it will keep you trapped forever." I unfolded it and saw myself. Not literally, but somehow, the parchment reflected my life. Every bad decision, every repeated mistake, every moment I chose the easier, safer path rather than the right one. I could see the pattern so clearly that it hurt. It was like staring into a reflection of every regret I had ever tried to forget. "You think you're powerless," she whispered, "but power is in awareness. If you continue on the same path, you'll never grow. You'll stay the same forever. You will live the same story again and again, blaming everyone but yourself. That is the true curse." I felt a chill run down my spine. I didn't know whether to fear her or thank her. Somehow, I knew she wasn't lying, and I knew, deep inside, that I had been waiting for someone or something to make me see it. Before I could say anything, she turned and walked into the shadows, disappearing as suddenly as she had appeared. I was left standing in the rain, holding the parchment, my mind racing. For the first time in years, I couldn't escape the truth. The curse I thought was fate was me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, thinking about every choice I had made, every habit I had formed, every opportunity I had ignored. I realized that if I didn't act, nothing would change. And for the first time, The fear of staying the same forever was stronger than the comfort of my familiar misery. Little did I know this encounter was only the beginning. The real challenge, breaking the cycle, was yet to come. Breaking the spell. The morning after that rainy night, I woke up feeling different. Not like I'd been magically transformed. No, the world looked exactly the same. But something inside me had shifted. The weight of my own patterns, the invisible chains I'd been dragging around for years, suddenly felt real. And worse, it scared me. I kept the parchment the mysterious woman had given me. I stared at it again and again, trying to understand what it was showing me. It wasn't just a reflection, it was a map of my habits, my choices, my fears. Every repeated mistake was marked in bold, almost screaming for me to notice. It was overwhelming. I felt like I had been living life on autopilot, watching myself make the same decisions over and over, and now I couldn't unsee it. That day, I made my first conscious choice. Instead of following my usual routine, I decided to go somewhere I had always avoided, the small old bookstore at the corner of my street. I wasn't sure why, but something inside me told me that the answers, or at least guidance, might be there. As I walked through the dusty aisles, I found a small journal tucked between the shelves. On the cover, it read, "Break Your Cycle." It felt like a sign. I opened it and found pages filled with exercises, reflections, and prompts. One sentence hit me harder than the rest. Awareness without action is useless. It was true. I could see my patterns all I wanted, but if I didn't do something, the curse would continue. So I started small. The first change was my morning. I had always hit snooze, rolled out of bed late, and rushed through my day, letting stress dictate every move. That morning, I woke up with the intention of doing one thing differently: making my bed. It seemed trivial, almost laughable, but the act of creating order in one part of my life gave me a sense of control I hadn't felt in years. Next came the decisions I had been avoiding. I called my boss to ask for clarification on a project rather than panicking in silence. I told a friend how I really felt instead of bottling it up. I even applied for a course I had wanted to take for years, but had convinced myself I didn't have time for. Each action was small, but each was deliberate. Each was me taking my life back. But breaking the spell wasn't easy. Old habits are like shadows. They follow you, whispering the same excuses, the same fears. Several times I slipped. I went back to my comfort zone, thinking it was safer. Each slip stung more than the last. But every time, I reminded myself of that rainy night and the woman's words. If you dunnity act, you'll stay the same forever. Weeks passed, and slowly, I started seeing real change. Not monumental overnight transformations, but subtle shifts that added up. I was calmer, more present, more intentional with my choices. Opportunities I would have ignored before were now possibilities. I felt lighter, as if the invisible chains had loosened just enough for me to breathe. The moment it truly clicked was when I faced a situation I would have handled poorly before. A confrontation at work, one that normally would have triggered panic and self-sabotage, became a chance to respond calmly and assertively. I realized I didn't feel trapped anymore. I had broken the pattern. The curse was no longer controlling me. I never saw the woman again, and I don't know if she was real or just a reflection of what I needed to see. But her message stayed with me. The curse was never about magic. It was about awareness, choices, and the courage to break free from habits that keep us stuck. Now, when I think about staying the same forever, it doesn't scare me as much. I know the power to change is in my hands. And every time I take a deliberate step toward growth, I remind myself that breaking the cycle is not a one-time act. It is a lifetime of conscious choices. I still keep the parchment folded neatly in my drawer, a reminder of the night I realized I was my own jailer. It is strange to think that the curse that once haunted me became the catalyst for the life I always wanted, all because I finally decided to stop repeating the same mistakes. And that's the lesson I've learned. If you keep doing the same things, you will stay the same forever. But the moment you choose differently, even once, you can begin to break the spell, and the rest will follow.